We're
You know what I'm
live.
saying?
We're
Cool.
live. She's
18.
waiting.
Assalamu alaikum. Peace. It's Coach Nyla.
And Coach Fatima.
And we are excited for this webinar for today. Well, I can't say this evening. Let us know where you guys are chiming in from. Where are you watching this webinar from? We're so excited because it's really some good information that we have for you guys, and a great announcement as well. So, but we want to give you guys some time to share this. Sharing is caring. Make sure you're sharing and getting something to write with, something to write on. Because we're going to be dropping some gems, doing a nice amount of training about, if you guys haven't seen or if you didn't see the title, we had it as increasing your emotional bandwidth. And are you like, what does that mean? What does that mean? It's like creating, increasing your emotional intelligence, increasing your emotional know-how. Excuse me. So we're able to operate at a higher level in our marriages, operate at a higher level in our lives, all that other good stuff. Apparently, my voice don't want to act right today. Apparently, I'm working with my new throat, so I'm trying to figure out how to work it. So if I happen to kind of clear my throat from time to time, please excuse me. Not trying to do it on purpose, right? So yes.
Yeah, we wanted to bring this information to you all today because we've been DM'd, we've been emailed, we've been DM'd in our IG messages, and we've coached and counseled many that have asked, how do you all do it?
Mm-hmm.
How do you stretch yourself to the point where you can have a closeness? And let us just say, please, please, please do not compare your chapter 1 to our chapter 12.
Right.
Like, I knew he was broke.
It's back on chapter 4. No, it's been longer than that.
Yeah, because we've really invested a lot of time, a lot of years, and
Yeah.
a lot of personal development into getting where we are today. So what you see is not the beginning result. Is that we're more toward the end result because we've had to do a lot of individual work.
Right.
So it's not just I wait on Coach Nyla to fix my stuff. She waits on me to fix her. We wait on our husband to fix everything
Right.
and everyone. That's not how it works. So we're really going to get into how it works. And this is not quick fix. Okay. I just mentioned that. And it is also something that we're focusing on because we want to talk about the long-term health and success of being in polygyny. Okay. That does not mean, disclaimer, hello, that doesn't mean you're not going to have rough days. That doesn't mean it's, what is it, Coach Now, sunshine and rainbows
and kittens and unicorns
and little leprechauns. Ain't none of that. But what we're saying is that there's hope and there's possibility. And in order to do this work, you must stretch yourself. So we talk about bandwidth. That's about that growth and stretching yourself and coming out of your comfort zone because nothing grows there, period. It just doesn't. And we know that, and we're living proof of that. So this is not for clicks, for likes, for follows, for any of that. We're really telling you what's going to work and what will not work. Because if you don't change, don't expect anything around you to change. Right. You're going to keep getting the same thing you've been getting if you're not willing to change who you are to be a better you. And this is what this work is about. We couldn't be coaches if we didn't go walking through the fire walking through the fire, so we don't have to walk through the fire, so yeah.
And it's about being intentional. It's about being intentional. So we definitely congratulate you for taking the time out, investing in yourself, being here, because even though that it is not of any cost or price or whatever to you, hopefully the value is great. And not only that the value is great, that you are still investing your time. See, money we can get back, time we can't. So when it comes to what we are doing in this webinar, what we'll be sharing with you, inshallah, God willing, will be of utmost benefit to you and what you want to accomplish in your marriages, what you want to accomplish in your life, inshallah, God willing. So yes. So again, we want to get started in a minute, so make sure you have something to write with, something to write on. Let us know where you are watching us from, and share this information because sharing is caring. even though we put a lot of emphasis on polygyny, even though you are watching two wives who are in a polygynous marriage, meaning that we are married to one man, we're not married to each other, right. Or nothing like that. One man married to two wives or multiple wives, that's polygyny. Sometimes people have an issue with us saying polygyny, but polygyny is the specific form of that type of marriage. Right. It goes under the umbrella of polygamy, and polygamy just means that a person married to multiple spouses. So you have polygyny, which is a man married to multiple women, and you have polyandry, which is a woman married to multiple husbands. Right. We're not doing that, so we're not talking about that in here. That's something that we are not discussing. But the main thing is about emotional intelligence, emotional bandwidth, and that can be utilized regardless if you are practicing polygyny or if you're practicing monogamy. It does not matter. Right. But we will get into the pretty much the meat and potatoes of it all. Inshallah, God willing, you guys are ready. So yeah,
off we go. Off we go, guys. We again, we had to bring this information because this one thing that we noticed, and this can be really across the board, the way that men in polygyny handle polygyny and the way wives, husbands in polygyny handle it, and the way wives handle it is much different because we have a whole different set of rules, a whole different set of goals. We're not each other. We're not the same sexes. There's difference. There's a difference between us. If you don't know that, you're gonna have to reevaluate your body and check out your landscape because there is a difference. And so the way in which we operate, even if you're in monogamy, you still don't have the same set of responsibilities that your husband has. Right. I didn't have it. Coach Nyla was in monogamy. Now we're both in polygyny. So we know there's a difference. And there especially is a difference when a man is in polygyny because he's got maybe two sides because he's got two wives. He might have three, he might have four. So he gets the benefit and the responsibility of hearing everything. And we don't have that. So what happens is people get on us about this one. You guys always talk about the male objectives. You never talk about the women's objectives. I'm telling you from experience. I'm telling you because a lot of the people that we've worked with, really awesome ladies, they are the ones that are saying, these are my sets of concerns. The men typically are dealing with another area of concerns. They're right. Dealing with, okay, how can I make this the best experience it can be for everyone? How can I deal with the different emotions? How can I deal with the financial responsibilities and balancing that as a man? It's much different. The focus is different. So we know that what we focus on is what we're going to be thinking about constantly. So that's why we want to really focus on emotions, because the women, the wives are the ones that are really trying to figure it out about being emotional and how do I cope or handle or navigate it all? How do you do it and you're okay? We're emotional all the time. We're always running with different emotions all day long. So we're emotional beings. So we're not trying to say get rid of the emotion. We're talking about how to navigate it in a healthy way so that the emotions that you're experiencing, they don't start to run you. Right. And then what's going to happen is if they start to run us in a negative way, then we're going to start to run people away, especially our spouses. So this is very important to talk about. So our emotions involve effort, whether they're negative or positive. I've never sat there and it was effortless to just sit there and just be negative. No, you got to think to be negative and you got to think to be positive. Okay. Okay.
All right. We're going to give you guys some time to get everything else started and give us 1 second. Is it up here? stuff. That's the awesome part of being part of IG. So yes, we're excited because we are, as I stated at the beginning, that we had an announcement to make, and so we are back. Hey guys, we're back. So I didn't want to discuss the announcement that we have for you guys until we kind of got into it a little bit more. And also everybody was back because IG, of course, you get to see even the behind the scenes stuff, but people who are on YouTube and on Facebook or it was a little, not a commercial, but an intro that they usually see. So now that everybody is back, my co-wife and I decided to conduct a polygamy masterclass.
Yes.
A women's polygamy masterclass. It's the first of its kind. We've done it before, but this one a little bit more intensive, actually a lot more intensive than the first one was. And we're really excited about it. And we definitely state the first of its kind because we didn't have that.
We
didn't
have nada.
And even still looking for these things and looking for different tools and resources to help our clients out and these different things like that to supplement the things that we do and the trainings and the coaching that we do as well. It's not really easy to find those things. As my co-wife said earlier, that polygamy does not get, or polygyny, and polygyny specifically, does not get its fair share of airplay. They don't talk about it much. And if it is talked about, it's talked about negatively because it's so taboo.
Right.
And the thing is that it's been around before even monogamy was around. And the interesting thing is I know some people will say, well, since the beginning of time, it was Adam and Eve and it was always monogamy and this and that, whatever. What I'm stating here is that when it comes to what people say, this is legal, is this legal, is that legal, and everything like that, monogamy was not the regulation of it all. It was polygamy. Polygyny was what it was. Polygyny was normal. It wasn't, it was another form of marriage. You had options, you had a choice. It wasn't this regulation that said, well, you can't do this, but you can do this one. This one is okay, but this one is not. Just that's that clarification there, because we know that we get people to say, well, polygyny wasn't always this and that and the other. So, but the thing is being able to be emotional intelligent enough to even be able to hear those things that we state, hear the things that are trained on and are spoken about when it comes to polygyny, and not to get so hell-bent in our emotions about what's right and what's wrong when it comes to a form of marriage that has been allowed by the Most High.
Right.
So we're going to, of course, get into that a little bit more, but the polygamy masterclass, the women's polygamy masterclass is, we're going to have it and started our first week next week, Sunday.
Yes.
So that is, I don't know what that is. I want to say it's the 9th, guys.
And I can't help you because I don't.
And I would say it's the 9th. So let us know down there if that's if I'm correct with the date. But it's next Sunday. So not today, of course. Next Sunday. Excuse me. Okay. Okay. So we're gonna get into get back into what we did before we took our break really quickly, about the emotional bandwidth. I would go into saying emotional intelligence too, as well as that, because we have our emotional IQ, our financial IQ, we have, just IQ in general, but being emotionally intelligent is very important. It's being able to understand, being able to use your emotions, being able to understand your emotions and understand emotions, period, in a way where you are able to be positive about it in a positive way. And I'm not saying that everything has to just be on the up and up and everything. I mean, everything has to be just all hunky dory. Just saying that it's being used in a positive way. a beneficial way, something that's going to be beneficial to you and not destructive or detrimental to your life or your relationships. So yeah.
And then sometimes part of being emotionally intelligent is checking the climate of what you're doing in the moment. We love to kind of check in on others and check the climate and tell them how they're acting or how they're behaving or what their patterns are. But when we turn the mirror inward toward ourselves, then we kind of get hemmed up. Because what is the quote? You want to be right or do you want to be married?
Right.
Which one do you want to be?
You want to be happy, you want to be fulfilled.
Right. Right. Because something's got to give, and 9 times out of 10, it's your ego. So it's okay to have a healthy ego where it has limits and say, well, I give myself a little pat on the back. I kind of help problem solve. Yay, me, yay, growth. Yeah. But when we're leading with our ego, we can't see past it sometimes. We get so upset, and the willingness to be right every time can overtake us, and it can be very blinding. So when our spouses are met with that, well, I'm right, whether you agree with it or not. So I'd rather have the ability to be right than have peace. So oftentimes, especially in polygyny, it's really easy to lead with emotion and ego and ask someone else to fix a situation. So self-awareness, that's another big thing. And we've trained on that a lot. So there's self-awareness, yes. But then there's also, especially in polygyny, situational awareness. So we know that our husbands can give us this much time. So when if we ask for more than that from them, we have to understand the situation that he's in. We have to understand the situation that we're in, and we have to. You don't have to do anything, but best practices for best results is understanding the situations that our co-wife or wives are in, knowing that there's other parts to the equation. Although you're monogamously married to your husband, and that's your marriage, there's more to it than just that. It's more to it than what we just see. We have to dig deeper and go, okay, somebody might be sick at my co-wife's house. He might have to leave in the case of an emergency. And that can be okay. But if we tell ourselves it's not okay, then that's all we're going to hear. It ain't okay. I don't care. I don't like it. The beauty of not liking things, it's okay if you don't like something, but to disrespect it is a whole nother realm. If you have some irritation, that's one thing, but to take action and go, I'm gonna just disrespect that whole thing. So I'll give you an example. Some women will say, I don't like polygyny for me, or she's not a wife to me. I don't think she's a real wife. So I said, okay, if I say my co-wife's not a real wife, then I'm falling into the trap of the disrespect that somebody else is trying to just submit into my life. So I just never went for it. I'm like, no, we're not going to say baby mama. We're not going to say those things and be disrespectful toward someone else's journey. But when you want to say, okay, I don't care. I don't care about her being, lawful. I care about the legal aspect. So a lot of that is ego driven, and it needs to be corrected. So being emotionally intelligent is understanding that other people have emotions as well. It's not just us.
I agree, of course.
Wrong again.
I agree. Because when it comes to being emotionally intelligent and stretching your emotional bandwidth, being able to know what that means, like relieving the stress, being able to relieve stress. When you stated being able to, or saying these negative things about your co-wife, that causes more stress in the marriage. That causes stress in your marriage, regardless of if you want to see it or not, or believe it or not. It causes that stress because now you have the what did they say? The enemy within, where now you are doing a couple of things where if you're not aware of, you could be questioning your husband's judgment. You are disrespecting a person who he actually married. He wouldn't allow that for you, and you wouldn't want him to, but to do that is being very disrespectful on that, on that front. So that stress, that causes stress, it builds stress. Where it also creates this problem area where it's like, can I trust, this trust area? And I know we'll get, of course, we'll get into that too later on, where we talk about and get into trust, that trust barrier, or breaking that trust, and how that affects, our emotions, and how to be able to not allow it to affect it in a way that is negative, but being able to communicate about that, because what we may believe or what we may think may not be the same to the other person. The other person probably didn't even know that that's what it was. And I think you talk about it a number of times, where it's these unspoken rules, or these unspoken things that you expect to happen, these unspoken expectations of what this should look like or what this may be. But we know that when it comes to increasing your emotional bandwidth, it's about being able to have the difficult conversations, or the uncomfortable conversations, or even going back and saying, wow, we didn't even speak about this, and it caused this by not being clear, this lack of clarity. So now it's time to talk about this, but being able to be mature enough to say, we didn't talk about it then, it did cause some rift, let's talk about it now. Let's talk about this now. And not only just talking about it, but being able to hear each other, being able to understand each other, being able to work out any type of differences and discrepancies. And of course, I'm going to put a disclaimer out to really quickly, just because sometimes people get it twisted. So we want to make sure you understand that we are talking about healthy, growth intended marriages. We know that there are narcissists out there. We know that there are predators out there. We know that they exist. And we are not giving a pass to any of that. We're not saying, well, you make sure you work on you and make sure that your emotions are all the way good and tied into success and building and everything like that, when you're in a dangerous place. Yes, you should do that for you. But when it comes to your space, you want to make sure that it's something that is going to be a fulfillment base. So we're not talking about those. We're talking about the healthy marriages that are going towards fulfillment in there.
Yeah, I'm so glad Coach Nyla brought that up, because people just jump on us and say, look, all brothers ain't like that, and a lot of husbands are not observing what they're supposed to observe. We know. We've coached many women, so we're not going to act like there's not a lot going on in the areas of marriage that is dealing with abuse and narcissism and this lack of consistency. Because some brothers, it's they got this wolf in sheep's clothing thing going on, and you have serial polygynists, and it's changing wives all the time, divorcing, marrying, divorcing, marrying. We know that this happens. So speaking about these things, training about them, especially in our Polygyny Masterclass, it's important to discuss, because the more we have these discussions, the more we're bringing these things out and these concerns out and these abuses out. But we're talking about two healthy, willing people that want to win as a couple. And that's that question. Do we want to win? We want our husbands to win. We want our family to win, because when he wins, we all win. We're not talking about the people that have the disease in their heart and think, okay, this is just for me. Y'all just bow down to me. That's not what we're talking about. And we want to be clear on that, but we're not afraid to go there either. So we know those things are happening, but we're really wanting to focus on, okay, my husband's a good dude. He's a good husband to me. He's trying his best. I'm trying my best, but I just don't know how to navigate these feelings that I'm having. So there's so much to it's so much to say in the way of how we talk to ourselves, about our marriage, about our spouse, about our co-wife, about our children, about our bonus babies. So communication is huge. It's a huge thing. And having the hard conversations, like you were saying, Coach Nyla, is big. Maybe you didn't have it right away, but there's still time to have it. And you might need to have more than one, so part of emotional intelligence also is knowing that our husbands have emotions as well. And they might not have every little thing figured out, and that's okay. And then the whole thing with assumptions, that's another thing, assuming that they don't have this, or they don't know this, or they're not aware of what's going on. They might be trying to navigate some things too. That's where Coach Nazir comes in at for the men's polygyny masterclass. Yeah, that would be good. So, for example, this was on Facebook. It's kind of, this is okay. These are the assumptions. Some of the assumptions that can happen. It's the new toy, old toy thing. We were talking about this earlier today. Matter of fact, my co-wife and I were talking about this. The assumption that the initial wife, and this could be the subsequent wife too, is the old thing. So I got to go over here and get this new toy to play with. This is what the men are allegedly saying. Or my husband doesn't love me anymore. Because again, people think this is really just an initial wife thing, but there are men that have more than two wives. So the subsequent wives can feel this as well. I've known personally subsequent wives, the second wife, and then the third comes in and she's going, that's the new wife. She's brand new, like a brand new Buick. I'm like, she's not a car, she's a person, so don't think because they think it's just, it's initial wives only feel this. Only initial wives feel jealousy. Only initial wives feel insecurity or loneliness or whatever the case may be, or feelings of betrayal. And it's just not true. And I said, men are interesting and people are in general, but I said, no amount of marrying again will a husband go, well, here's the new wife. I don't love you anymore. Because my next question was, well, when did he say that to you? And then the sister will go, oh, he never said he didn't love me anymore. I said, yeah, but you assumed it. Because it's easy, especially in the West, if somebody got somebody new, they don't like you or they can't love you at the same time. And we're both mothers and we have children at the same time and we love them at the same time. It's so interesting. But when it comes to more than one wife, impossible. You can't do that. That's not true. Men can, but that doesn't mean they love us any less. It doesn't mean polygyny is somehow our fault. So if Coach Nazir got a third wife, it's your fault. It's not true. Something wrong with you. Because if I turned to Coach Nyla and I said that, if he got another wife, something wrong with you. You're old thing, younger than you, you're deficient. People go, oh, Coach Fatimah, that was mean. You shouldn't talk to your co-wife like that. Well, why not? Because this is how you talk to yourselves. So we have to be really careful about how we communicate, not only with others, but to us, and how we assume that we're deficient. We're deficient. No matter the sequence of wives, it can happen to maybe not that fourth one, though. She might, I don't know, go reverse.
Yes, I think so. I believe so. And I know that we had a number of co-wives who came in, subsequent wives that came in after the second, so third, fourth wives. And that is a thing. The thing is not that it has to be that if someone comes after you and then you're feeling deficient. I know from experience, that's not the thing. That wasn't with me. And I know that, and when it comes to that emotional intelligence or lack thereof, and the lack of emotional bandwidth that I had at that time, it was feeling these insecurities, and I would kind of break it down in a couple of things, or in about 5 parts when it comes to the emotional bandwidth and emotional intelligence: the self-awareness, the empathy, the social skills or social awareness, motivation, and self-regulation. So if I check those things and I say, am I on the up and up with those? Am I looking into those things and I'm like crushing it? And I'm like, I'm good at this, meaning that when it comes to my self-awareness, do I know what my triggers are?
Right.
And those are things where a number of clients thought, just like I did, thought that here it is. We at least know we know us.
Right.
we know
we act.
we know what
Yeah.
would tick us off, or we know these things. And then later on in life, something else would trigger a response or a reaction in a way. And we're like, oh, I don't know where that came from. That came left field.
Right.
I don't know why that was the case. And then we'll have to dig deeper and to see, was it any type of childhood trauma? Was it any type of something that may have happened in the marriage that you kind of pushed aside, didn't have that courageous communication about, that it did bother you, but you say, you know what? It's not that big of a deal. Or that's the way he is, or something on the lines of that. And then it just ate at you, or you thought you put it to the back burner and it was something that he did and it triggered this thing. And then now it blew up into something crazy. That's when we have to look and say, well, what does that self-awareness look like for us? Excuse me. And then the empathy, caring for other people, caring for ourselves, but definitely caring for other people, caring for our husbands, caring for our co-wives, having that where it doesn't have to be where you're just besties or anything like that when it comes to your co-wife, or that you have to understand every single thing that there is about your husband. But being able to say, you know what, like my co-wife said just earlier, said that he is a person too. He has feelings as well. He may not show it the way that we will show it. Right. We wouldn't want him to, for one, you know. Right. And I'm pretty sure there was a number of women that say that. They're like, well, if he expresses emotions like I express mine, it'll be a little weird, you know. But being able to empathize with the stresses and the struggles that your husband goes through in polygyny. You know, yes, yours matter. We understand that ours matter. Yeah, we know that because we've heard that. Right. We've heard that. And there are times when I know me, I can speak for myself, that I can get into my own space and say, well, this is what I feel about this. This is how this affected me. And when I'm in that mindset and that frame of mind, then I know that I'm not thinking about the other person. I can't. There's no space. Because I'm saying, it's me. This is what I feel. This is what happened to me. This is me. I'm not saying to disregard your feelings. I'm saying to also allow space and grace for the other person. Understanding that you're not the only person in the world that has feelings. I remember my son's great grandma, you know, may she rest in peace. She had this, I don't know, something happened, and she just went in, and she went in on me. She just went in on me. And back then I was just this crybaby, everything like that. You know, my feelings get hurt very easily. People pleaser, all that other stuff, whatever. I felt away, and I felt so bad because I was like, why is she going off on me like that? You know, she had her issues or something going on, but she loved me, but that time she had some other stuff going on. She went off. I felt bad. Now her daughter, my son's grandmother, went off on her, and she didn't go off too bad. Like, you know, she had respect for her mother, but she told her, she said, you're not the only person here with feelings. She said, what you did was wrong, and I'm going to let you know that this is wrong. You're not the only person with feelings. So you're hurt right now of what I said to you because I'm calling you out. I'm holding you accountable. So you have to understand that just as much as I'm holding you accountable and you feel a certain way, she's feeling a way too. And she calmed down a little bit, and she thought about it, and she apologized and these things like that. So, but having that empathy, and I understood, I had empathy. I was hurt, yes, because it was directed at me, but I understood there was something else going on in her life. That empathy is a great shield or a great protector from us causing drama and battling each other, because then we say, you know what, why did they do what they did? Why did they snap off on me like that? Maybe it wasn't me. Maybe they just had a bad day. Maybe somebody did this. That's not saying that it's okay. This is what I'm saying. I'm not saying that it's okay, but saying that, you know what, it happens. Because I know, guys, put thumbs up or a hand raised in the comments and in the chat if this has happened to you, where you went off on someone, or you put your energy, some negative energy, on someone that was undeserving of it because of what was going on in your life. And what was going on in your life at that time. It happens. We understand that. But the emotional intelligent part about it is saying, you know what? I shouldn't have did that. Let me apologize.
Yep.
Or I shouldn't have did that. And I'm a big fan of Daniel Tiger, and I know people have heard it if you guys watch some of my videos. And of course, I have a 4-year-old, so I'm going to talk about Daniel Tiger.
Google him. Right? Put some respect on his name.
Daniel Tiger talks about a number of different things. I say adults need to watch Daniel Tiger.
They do.
He has a saying I'm sorry is the first step. Then how can I help? I love that so much, because it's not just saying sorry. It's not just saying, oh, I apologize for this. It's like, okay, how can I make this better? What can I do? What can I do for my part? I'm going to apologize for my part.
Right.
Because you could possibly even be right, but the way you came at the person, or the energy that you spewed out, I've been known to do that and not even know that I've done that. So if you are called out on something like that, where it's like, you know what, this is what happened, this is what you said. I told myself something happened not too distant ago where I end up stepping out of myself. And I say stepping out of myself because I didn't realize I did the things that I was told that I did. Certain things I did see, but the other stuff I didn't. And I said, you know what? I need to be more self-aware. Self-aware, that's key. Yeah. I have to be more self-aware of what's going on. I need to know what my triggers are. I need to know what my energy is looking like. And I need to be empathetic too. Be able to listen to what's going on with the other person that I'm communicating with. And if that happens to be the hubster, if that happens to be my co-wife, if that happens to be the kids, we have to understand what that looks like. And that's emotional intelligence there. Being able to have that social awareness to see what's going on, and being able to pick up on cues. Yes. Pick up on the body language, pick up on the tone of voice, even your own. Sometimes we're so deep in it. We're so deep in it that we don't understand that our tone have changed, that our mood, the way we shifted our body, the way we held our mouth, the way we twisted our eyes or nose or whatever the case may be, may have changed because we're not being aware and we're not even watching their cues, because sometimes their cues can be a mirror to what we're doing to them. Yeah.
They're just projected back onto you because you're projecting it. So another thing that we need to call ourselves out for is having a lack of control and then losing control. Losing control meaning letting go or relinquishing the control that you thought you had. Because sometimes we think we're running something and we're not. We're absolutely not running something, but the desire to want to run something needs to be abandoned, because it's not going to serve you. It's who wants to hang out or be around or be married to someone that, and they're thinking, this person is really trying to run my life right now. And I don't feel like I have my own individuality, and I feel like I'm dealing with a tyrant. Someone that's making it uncomfortable, because all they're going to want to do is run away from you. Again, they're going to want to get away from you. So true. So when you tell someone, because when you're not emotionally intelligent or mature, you will dump all that on someone and unload it. Tell them everything you want to say at one time, and then they're stuck with, well, what do you want me to do with it? Because they don't know where to begin. Because you put them at a disadvantage because you're unloading everything. One thing about a hard conversation or having control over yourself is knowing when it's an appropriate time to bring up a concern, not a complaint, because I like the word concern better than complaint. When you meet someone and say, I want to lodge a complaint, or I have a complaint, or I'm upset about this, versus saying, I'm a little concerned about some things. And some may say, well, people don't talk like that. Well, people don't also have healthy relationships either.
There it is.
So you can't have it both ways. So you're either going to talk and communicate in a more effective way, a tone like Coach Nyla was saying, or you're not. But again, you'll keep getting the same results you've been getting if you don't change something. We don't want to change. See, I don't want to change because, see, the problem was never me. And that's not true. Everybody has something. That's another myth. Fix it. You need to fix this because you messed it up. And that's not true. Can we help fix something? If it's not right, well, then help me make it right. But complain is something that we can't do and think we're going to have a successful polygynous journey.
Right.
It's about developing your person or personal development and holding yourself accountable, not just other people. I've seen countless times where it's my co-wife this, my husband that, my co-wife this, my husband that, my kids, my co-wife, my husband. It's all them. It's all their fault. And then you have the other kind of mindset, which is forward thinking, not solo thinking, that says, how can I make this easier? That doesn't mean you neglect or negate or ignore how you feel. It just means you just don't focus on just you constantly.
Indeed.
Because again, we say it all the time, polygyny is not just happening to you. It's happening to everyone that is in the family, right? So you are monogamously married to the same man. However, you can make stuff uncomfortable. You might not run it, but you can absolutely make things uncomfortable and harder to do. The reason why OPR works, the reason why our family works, the reason why this is working, period, is because everybody is part of one big vision, one big moving family, one big unit, and everybody's doing their work.
Yeah.
And we're not going, okay, there's one person over there. Let's dump all the responsibility onto that one person who is typically the husband. Because if you think about all the stuff he has to do and how much women are doers, men and women both are doers. But when we get in there and we help, then it's smoother than just putting the weight on one person. And we know that we're living proof of that. Because if the man is coordinating everything and going, well, what do you think? What do you think? And then he's got to kind of modulate, figure out, and balance out what to do, even with his own desires, wants, and needs and vision for his family. That's a lot of weight. That's a lot of pressure. You know, I'll give you an example. A friend of mine was saying she was out of the job force. Her husband was a police officer. He still is. And after years that she had her children, she went back into the workforce. And I'm like, oh, why did you go back? She got her old job back. And this is right in the middle of COVID because she could work from home. She said, well, I want to see my husband. And if I don't work right now and help financially, didn't have to. He made enough. But she's like, I want to see him. He makes enough, but I don't see him. So in order to see him, I'll work remotely, raise my children, take them to school, but I didn't get married to feel like I'm by myself. So what are the options? Let him work himself to death, never see him. And in the meantime, in between time, he could get injured, could get killed in that line of work. She's like, I just want to see him. And I said, wow, that's powerful. Yeah. But she was like, the way it is now, buy what I want to, but I don't get to see my husband though. So she found a solution instead of going, well, I don't get to see you. Because what is he supposed to do with it? I'm trying to take care of you all, so I got to work. It's a family of 6 people, 4 kids, 2 adults. And I said, that's so mature of her to just think of him and go, I got to see my husband. So I got to make some sacrifices. And that's what we're saying. You're not going to get it your way. You got to sacrifice your ego to get to some of these really good. This is honorable work. Some of the most honorable work you'll do is with a great husband and you're a great wife and you're just kind of trying to find your way and navigate this thing. That is some of the most honorable personal development you will ever do. It's create a really safe mental and physical environment, emotional environment for yourself and your spouse together now. Shoot.
And that goes towards the motivation part. That goes towards where it's like, what is the thing that's moving you towards success in your marriage? What's that part? So being able to speak together, just like the example that my co-wife, Coach Fatimah, stated about the wife and her husband, and she's like, I don't get to see him. So the motivation of success in our marriage is me being able to bond with him, me being able to communicate with him, me being able to see him, be there with him. So what do I need to do? What motivation? What is moving me? What is moving me for success in that part? I can control me. I can control my part. So that's a great example of the motivational part of the emotional intelligence and increasing your emotional bandwidth. Because just like my co-wife said, she's like, well, I don't see you. What are you going to do about it? Or, type of thing. It's like, okay, I'm motivated for success. So what can I do? Yeah. I'm motivated for us to bond. What can I do? That's where date nights come in. And I know some people don't really, they don't like putting a thing on the date night. They don't like putting a schedule on it because they say then it starts to become routine. Weird. But, it's like, oh, but the thing is being able to, instead of just making it work for you, because everybody's marriage is not going to be the same. But these tools that we are bringing to you can be utilized in any marriage. Yeah. In any marriage. However, is how does it work for you? So you can say, you know what, we will do a date night once a week, but guess what? It's not going to be the same day every day. I remember my mom used to do that. And that's what I stated before when I said some things start to get routine and then it just becomes monotonous or it becomes too familiar. Yeah. So then it's just another thing to do. Yeah. So that happened and it became a monotonous thing to do. And then it got to the point where like, this is not even bonding anymore. It's just something to check off the list. But being able to be intentional with it, saying that even if it started to become monotonous and say, you know what, this is just seeming like a chore. This is just something to do, another thing to do on our to-do list. How about we switch it up a bit? How about we, every other week it'll be on this day, but then we kind of pull out of a hat or something like that on what day it'll be for the other week or something. Just something about switching some things up so it doesn't become too familiar, so it don't become too monotonous. And then it also goes into the self-regulation part, because there are things that can be monotonous. It can be the same old, then you get bored. You get bored because you have not sat there and said, you know what, let me think about this for a second and create a plan, because it sounded good at first, but now that we're in it, we need to shift some stuff, or maybe we need to nix it all together. Yeah. Let's regulate this. Let's see what it looks like. Let's sit back and think and plan, and then we can do. And that's okay. Just because you created something one time doesn't mean that it has to be the same all the time. If it seems to be a chore, if it seems to be a bore, whatever the case may be, just say, you know what, let's revisit this and do something else that's going to, bond us and build us. And a lot of that stuff comes with increasing and stretching that emotional bandwidth, because we have to look at us, because we can easily place the blame or put the responsibility on someone else, preferably, I say preferably husbands, because they say, well, they're the protectors, they're the providers, they're the ones supposed to do this, and that, and the other. Exactly. And it's that limited mindset. It's being very limited in saying that you do this, I'm not happy with this, or I'm not fulfilled. Because happiness, it's neither here nor there. So I'm not fulfilled. But it's like, entertain me,
Right, like a court
type
jester.
of thing, where we have to understand that we are in this together. So being able to say, well, let me be self-aware and know what my triggers are. Let me have empathy for my spouse.
Yes.
So I know what can, trigger him or bother him, and being able to be understanding of that. Let me pick up on these social cues. Let me have some social awareness, because even when it comes to even that date night example that I talked about, is that you can kind of see if the energy is not there, if the bonding is not there, if it's just another thing to do, picking up on that and saying, okay, well, let's move this, let's change this.
Yeah.
And then what's the motivation? Are we being motivated together? Are we moving together? What is my motivation in the same line of his motivation? It may not be the exact same thing, but are we moving in the same direction?
Absolutely.
And then regulating, that self-regulation, stating that, you know what, if I'm feeling this type of way, or if these triggers get hit, or this boredom starts to seep in, can I take a step back and regulate the temperature? Can I regulate what's going on? Can I change the trajectory of what's going on by basically stepping back and seeing what that looks like?
Absolutely. And that's just it. Share your core values with one another. What are your beliefs? So if we're practicing Muslim women, so if we go, okay, we have these 5 pillars, or these 5 things that we must do, as Muslims, and one of them is like, we'll say, well, we have to pray. Okay, we know that's one of our core values, but then if we don't take action on it, is it there for just simple decoration? So our core values are not just there so that we can say, I have this and you're not up on it. But we have to take action with them and share them with one another, because maybe your husband's core values might be a little different than your own. But to share those with each other and we always say that people need to get on the same page, get in the same book, because you might be in 2 completely different books. And then you find that out down the line, but then we don't think we can course correct it. Yes, you can. You can redirect the relationship, but it takes 2 people. So if that did not work, share your core values and then take action on them. Don't just make them and then do nothing about them. Because if you're that's what's so great about having a spouse that knows what your values are, because then they can go, okay, remember, these are the things that we're going to do. This is the vision. These are our values. Let's support that and abandon anything that does not support those values, because that's where you create that division. At is when you don't have those values together, and we just need to make sure we're consistent on that.
All right. I was going to take a quick little break and go through and give some shout outs. And if you guys have not downloaded your Polygyny, okay. All right. So, guys, we have I was talking about announcements. Announcement. Yes. We have released our polygamy roadmap. I'm super excited about that. And I'm super excited about a lot of stuff that we do, because you guys hear me saying I'm super excited a lot. So make sure you check out polygamyroadmap.com so you can get your download of the polygamy roadmap ebook. Because like, what's the polygamy roadmap? It's an ebook. And it's amazing tips, information, anecdotes, stories, all of that good stuff wrote up into a nice ebook on how to help navigate through the somewhat rough waters of polygyny. We'll just say that. Alhamdulillah. Yes, it's really good. All praise to God. For those who don't know what that means. So, you know what? We've been on for a minute too, and we are going to take some questions. We're going to give some shout outs, and we're going to wrap up in, I want to say, about 10 minutes or so. So make sure if you have any questions, put them in the comments, and we will try to get to those. We'll try to get to those. It was something else that I wanted to tell you guys. Oh, oprcommunity.com. That's it.
Yeah,
I knew it was something. So we have a troll-free zone, safe space where you can communicate with like-minded people, where you can post your wins, your challenges, your triumphs. You can connect with myself, Coach Fatimah, Coach Nazir, and it's in our own private community. You don't have to worry about, we'll be posting things, and we have posted things where we were not able to post things on our other social media or our social media platforms because you have certain things like copyright strikes and all that other crazy stuff. We don't have to worry about that in our private online community. Guys, if you are not a part of it, go and sign up because it is amazing. Yes. Like I said, we are there, and you have amazing like-minded people as well that give their stories, their triumphs, their challenges, their tips and their anecdotes when it comes to navigating in marriage, as well as just in polygyny as well in general. So go to oprcommunity.com.
And we'll be live, guys, so make sure you check us out. So Thursday I have Quintessential Queens, and on Saturdays Coach Nyla has
Poly Tea and Chat. It's the women's Poly Tea and Chat, so that's for the queens only.
Yeah, and the Queen's Corner.
And the Queen's Corner.
Yeah,
so check us out. And if you guys haven't, like I said, if you haven't been a part of the community, go, and you'll be able to look around, and you'll be more familiar about what we're talking about when we say the Queen's Corner, the King's Corner, and our public discussion areas.
We're checking chats.
Okay. And Cowives Smith, shout out. Thank you.
Shout out.
Thank you. Thank you for the super sticker. If you haven't, make sure you join us in our OPR community. We're so looking forward to seeing you guys there. I like the diamonds. Yeah. And as a thank you, Kavi, we are sending you a copy of the polygamy roadmap. Okay, so ebook. I keep saying roadmap, and I keep forgetting the ebook. The ebook part. She was like, I don't want a map.
That's so awesome.
Okay, let's go through here. Let's go through here. Okay, so we're gonna go through. Do you have any? Before we go, because we're going to go through some questions, but before we go, I'm going to let Coach Fatimah pretty much bring us home and finish up.
Do the thing. So make sure, you guys, if you wrote your notes down, if you have core values, if you have anything that you want to share with your spouse, please do that in at an appropriate time, and create a safe space. We have a safe space in our community. Please create a safe space within your marriage, your relationship, and understand that if you need to have the hard conversations, it's okay. They don't need to be hostile. They might be difficult, and practice that courageous communication that Coach Nyla was talking about, training about earlier. Please do that. Please, please, please.
Oh, and another thing is, I totally forgot, and we talked about it earlier in the live cast, in the webinar. However, we have our Women's Polygamy Masterclass that my co-wife and I will be conducting, next Sunday. So you definitely want to be a part of that. It's a 4-part Women's Polygamy Masterclass, and we actually have a bonus week for you. So super excited about it. Week 1, we're going to talk about self-check. We're going to get into insecurities, jealousies, things like that in our week 2. So the things that we were discussing here, that we were giving you some tips on, we go deep dive in our polygamy masterclass, because we get into the emotional intelligence of it all. When it comes to us as women, that's what we do lead with. We do. When we're in our element, if we listen to ourselves speak, we say, I felt this, but my feelings are this. I felt. You will hear the husband say, well, I heard this, or I
I
thought
think.
this, or I think
I
this.
think.
So because of that, because of the differences, just because we you don't have the yin without the yang.
Right.
I remember my daughter and I, we were talking and we were joking about it. It's like if you just had more yin than yang, then you just have you have a big circle with one color, and then you have the little black dot, or you have or
We'll be back, guys. The video's gone to frozen, but we'll be back. Just hold tight, okay? We're still here. We're still with you.
or you have the black spot and the one little white dot. So those it's just no balance. And so so when it comes to balance, we want to make sure that we are getting into our femininity, which is a part of our bonus week in our women's polygamy masterclass, femininity versus ego. So we get into these deep dive trainings and trainings, tips, ideas when it comes to emotions, emotional intelligence, and emotional maturity, emotional bandwidth, and stretching that so you can have a fulfilled marriage. So I'm excited about that.
Yes,
and
so
we
happy.
are starting that. Our first week of that is this upcoming Sunday, October 9th, if I'm not mistaken.
It's a legend.
So make sure you go
Allegedly.
to polygamymasterclass.com and register for that.
We got a couple questions. Okay, just hang tight, guys. We're just sifting some questions right now. We have a question from IG, I believe.
Okay, IG.
Mm-hmm.
How do we control the jealousy? By Razma Saeed 1. Okay, how do we control the jealousy? That's a good question.
Yeah.
Because the way you worded it was very beautiful. It wasn't that how do we not be jealous?
Mm-hmm.
How do we stop being jealous? How we control the jealousy?
Yeah.
That right there shows a lot of emotional intelligence right there, because it shows that jealousy is a natural emotion.
Yeah.
It's natural. But being able to control, just like we control anger, just like we can control how we react to something sad or respond to something sad, because we can be sad, and we can just bawl out and act crazy. We can be angry, or we can be upset, and we can just start trashing the house.
Right.
You know, that's
some people have done it.
Yeah, and that's similar when it comes to jealousy.
Tore up their whole house. I know a brother had reached out to us and he said, I don't know what to do. My wife destroyed the entire house. And it's kind of like, we have to think about how much you're going to put up with that, too. You might have to make the ultimate decision. We might not want to, but we might have to, because when you get to the point where you actually start destroying your own property and your home and your belongings, I don't think we, and I don't know the sister's story because I don't have her side. So I don't want to act like, oh, she's crazy or whatever. But we want to speak to the mental health and wellness of everyone that is involved in polygyny, and know that if you're coming home every time and your house is completely turned upside down, you have to understand how much are you going to deal with that, and how healthy is that or unhealthy is that for your children to witness. So you might have to make the ultimate decision. So I don't want to gloss over that. However, one thing that helps women in polygyny, I know it helped me a great deal, and this is really early years, is that you get to say it's what you were saying about you might be jealous of the feeling, but not the person. That thing, it's a very real thing. So when we say watch what you say to yourself about yourself and your spouse, what helps is not going, well, why is he with her? Or why is he over there? Or why this? I changed the questions that I was asking myself. And I said, and made him into statements. He's supposed to be where he is right now. This is his responsibility. Because it's no different than his responsibility towards me. It's no different. So when you start to change what you say to yourself about the situation you're in, about your spouse, about your co-wife, you will find that you will feel better if you ask different questions.
Mhm.
Why wouldn't he be over there? He's supposed to be over there today, tonight, or whatever the case may be. And then your brain goes, yeah, he's supposed to be over there today. But if you say, I can't, he shouldn't, I'm not having it, I won't, she ain't gone, and all of those types of things, you'll feel worse, I promise you. But once you start asking the right questions, that's the beautiful thing about our brains. They're so intricate, they're so powerful. Whatever we feed them, they will help us produce. We feed our brain good things and positive reinforcement. That doesn't mean you erase jealousy. It just means you're able to navigate it in a more effective way. It means you don't become a monster of it. It means the jealousy doesn't grow to envy. So we have some work we have to do. It's work, but it's the most honorable work you'll do is the point. So yes, that's such a great question, and we do get it often.
Oh, yeah. And look at your greatness. Look at the things that you do
Celebrate
well.
you, honey.
Celebrate you. Understand that it's natural to be jealous, but as my co-wife said, it's asking yourself the proper questions.
Yes.
So because whatever questions you're going to ask yourself, you're going to get the answers, and it might not be the answers that you want because you may not be asking the right questions. So ask, why am I feeling this way? What's the truth behind this?
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of it can come from insecurities. That's what a lot of it can come from. It's like, well, why am I insecure? What is the reason for this? Am I insecure because of something that just wasn't done in a way that I thought it should be done? And this, be mindful of how I said that. Not that it wasn't done right. It wasn't done in a way I wanted it to be done. So when it comes to that type of thing, if your answers are yes, or you have these certain answers where you may need to have a conversation with yourself in the mirror, have a conversation with your spouse, ask yourself the proper questions so you can get the right answers. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to jealousies, just make sure that you are celebrating you and going to the core of the matter. And a lot of it can come from our negative core beliefs, not just only about ourselves, but our negative core beliefs about things that we were taught when we were growing up. So about situations, and one of those things can be even polygyny in general. So just making sure that you are asking the right questions, getting the answers that you need, and actually being intentional on seeking beneficial answers, beneficial knowledge for yourself and your marriage. Inshallah, God willing. Hope that helped.
Yeah, we have one more question. What if your spouse doesn't want you or prefer you not to get counseling, especially when you strongly feel it's necessary? Assalamu alaikum, OPR. We can I understand it kind of both ways. Sometimes, I'll just say this, I don't know what anybody's spouse's intentions are upon them, but sometimes I've seen where, especially in the Muslim community, we would want to be counseled by Muslims, because sometimes there's an indoctrination that can happen, not in all cases, but some spouses fear that, okay, this person, they might be a great counselor, they might be a great therapist, but they're not leading with Islamic values. And that scares me, because I'm concerned about that, because we need to be in the remembrance of Allah. And if I don't feel like this person is qualified, then I wouldn't want my spouse to talk to this person. Now, I'm never going to tell anyone not to get therapy, to get counseling. We're not therapists. We're coaches, and we do counseling. But we're not going, oh, don't ever get trauma therapy. We don't know what anybody's situation is, or why someone else's spouse might decide they don't support that particular decision. They might not even be saying, I don't want you to at all. They might just be saying, this particular person bothers me, this worries me, because I don't know if they're familiar with our culture, our core values as Muslims. So I've seen that part too. But we know, and we've trained about this often, we can't make anyone support our vision, support our mental health and wellness. We know that. And that's another reason why we offer coaching and counseling, because we know that is a concern. It's very valid. It's a very valid concern. because I know the company I keep is mainly majority of my friends are Muslim, because we have so much in common, and we can remember and remind each other and support one another, and we don't have to explain so much. And I know some really awesome people that aren't Muslim that are supportive of us, and I really celebrate them too. But we get that. We've heard this before. This is not anything that we haven't heard, but since we don't, I don't want to be unfair to the other party that might be on the other side, but sometimes it's not to say diabolical. It's not a diabolical thing that they don't want you to. They just want to make sure the person is really qualified to do it, you know? So yeah, I think voicing our concerns and being very genuine and sincere when we're doing so, it matters to the spouse. And telling them why you feel like you really need that coaching or counseling.
Yeah, definitely getting clarity, and of course we have different resources. Our OPR community, OPRcommunity.com. We have a number of courses, because sometimes maybe having that other space, that safe space to communicate would be kind of that bridge when it comes to getting therapy, or if they don't want therapy, that's a place where they can get the information, or they can get the assistance, or at least some information that may assist and help, or checking out some of our courses, because then it's kind of I don't really want to say passive, but you don't have to give so much information, but you can learn the lessons from those courses, from that information. So there's still ways out there. There's still tools. There's still resources that you can use. So it's not totally out of question of getting assistance when you need assistance, and when you know that assistance is necessary. But you have to find out what works best and be open-minded to different types of resources that's out there. And of course, we have our OPR community, which is the group of like-minded people, as well as the coaches are there as well, to assist and give insight and feedback. And we do have our courses as well. So there are alternatives.
Yeah, and you can check us out at CoachFatimah.com.
And CoachNyla.com.
Yeah, for details. If you want details on our coaching or counseling, we want to definitely offer that up. So yes, if there's one here, I think this is the last one we're going to take, guys. What do you say if the wife demands that her husband come home after work and do the basic chores that the wife does, cooking, cleaning, taking care of kids, etc.? What do you say to a wife that demands that of her husband? I would say this. I was raised with my grandparents, and it was a very traditional home, and they had a balance. My grandpa worked. My grandmother took care of, she was an amazing household manager. And what she didn't know how to do, she hired someone to do it, to give herself a little bit of help. So I love the fact that, you know, you can create a balance, but I do believe in having a husband that is the head and the leadership. So we help where we can, but I wouldn't, you know, neither one of us would be like, you know what, you work 15 hours today and go on in there and get them dishes, get the dishes done. I love a healthy balance. And I love when someone can say, let's talk about some boundaries. Let's observe some boundaries and practice using safe words within those boundaries, meaning we're going to talk about what is required and what are our expectations. I'll give you an example. We know the expectations of our husband. So that's one of the most liberating things because it takes the guesswork out of a lot of things. That's not to say we don't have a voice. That's not to say we don't give, what is it called? Nyla, my brain going. We give suggestions right? We all give suggestions. Everybody has a voice, but there's indeed a balance and an expectation. For us as being wives, we have our expectation as wives, and our husband has his expectations as a husband. And they might look different, y'all, but it does create this balance that's really, it helps our family so much.
As Coach Fatimah talks about our husband and the balance and the different things, we are going to invite him to join us with the final pieces of the Q&A before we close out here. So he does a lot of work a lot of work behind the scenes, and helps us look as good as we do on the camera and all that other good stuff. It allows us to not forget some of the things that we want to say and we may have let slip through. So it's really good. And here he is.
It's a stunt double. That's not him.
Let me take one question up, that therapist question, because I can give a little bit of perspective on that.
It's
not that high.
It's not that high. Okay.
Right there. All right, just to give some perspective on this piece, as my wives definitely addressed it and got to the point. There's a couple things we really should think about and recognize, especially when it comes to someone wanting counseling or therapy and the other person not. Normally, the person not wanting it is the husband, it's the man. Let me tell you a little bit about the men's perspective and where we stand with it. Of course, we strongly believe, if you are, for example, one of my mentors told me, said, listen, if you are over 30 years old and you still are having trouble and challenges with what other people think about you, and these things are really holding you back, and you have some ingrained things that you kind of need to, you feel you need to talk out or really get out, seek therapy. There's no shame in that. I mean, it's very important for growth. Okay. So we're not anti-therapy, not at all. Matter of fact, many of our teachers come from many of the different sciences. So for example, one of the books that we recently finished as a family and that we're reading is by Carol Dweck. I should have just grabbed another chair. Anyway, it's by Carol Dweck. But what I want to share with you briefly is, well, she's a PhD psychologist and so on as the professor right now. But whether it's her or Angela Duckworth or a number of these other psychologists or psychiatrists like Daniel Amen, the number one brain doctor in the world and famous neurologist, what we do, what we believe in is that the very first step goes as part of your personal growth is making the decision that you are going to grow. Now, do you need to wait for another person, you know, that has an ist behind their name to help you grow, help you make that decision to take those steps? Because if we know how they got the information they got, which is usually by reading, all right? So we know that the first revelation, I mean, if you're Muslim, the first revelation is Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq, right? So read, study, grow. So when they talked about taking courses, take them. Somebody will say, hey, don't read, don't pick up a book, don't watch a video where you can learn more. You know, that's really a part of, even when we talk about personal growth or personal development books, there are parts in the bookstore called, what is it called? Self-growth, self-development, self-help. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I like many of my mentors and teachers and courses and trainers where we've been, these people, they're not limiting themselves to one discipline. So, for example, you have Tony Robbins, and you probably know Tony Robbins, right? High school graduate, and trained literally hundreds of millions of people, really positively impacted their lives. But he's not stuck in different areas and disciplines that we've studied even. So Gestalt therapy, for example, has many limitations. You have cognitive behavioral therapy. You have many different types of therapies that all have their limitations, and you have to go through these different certifications. Again, nothing's wrong with it at all. There is much benefit. However, the relatively new science is positive psychology. So it's an ever-evolving thing. But what if you chose to just grow, get the books, get the courses, and invest in yourself? See, we've been studying these areas for over 20 years. Over 20 years, right? So we are continually studying and learning and growing and developing and stuff like that. And we don't want to limit ourselves. So that's why we go to coaches, whether it's Bashard or Robbins or Graziosi, whatever it may be, in these different areas. And you recognize that they're taking kind of like a Bruce Lee thing. He took what he felt was the best discipline out of many different types of martial arts, and he put it in his and called it Jeet Kune Do. You know what I'm saying? So Anyway, but men in general, we emote, we go inward when we deal with things. Women talk, they cry it out, and they more, social with it. So it just sounds like the most logical step, but we are not the same. It's one of the reasons you have professional athletes who get taken advantage of by their agents and end up broke. They're ashamed to speak of it. And this same agent is still going around helping others lose their money very fast. So anyway, just wanted to really share that from that perspective. I don't need to stay all the way in. I know that they're wrapping up, but I want to at least put that across so that you understand growth starts with you. And one of the reasons that we focused on and letting people know, get your Polygyny Roadmap ebook so that you can start that journey. Join the community where it's a safe space. You can go back and forth, hear stories from other individuals, different stories of triumph and challenges and whatnot. Join the Kings and Queens area where we go individually. We're not on Facebook and YouTube, even though we are in the community and stuff right here. And we know some of you are watching, so that's what's up. But when they talked about when we're going on a weekly basis in the community, that's for our people. That's anti-troll. That's where you can learn and grow and get that help that you're looking for, and also be a positive voice for others, because the more excuses we take away, the more empowered other people will be. So with that, I'm going to fade back to the background.
Thank you, sir. Your time. Okay, y'all. The man, the myth, the mystery. Coach Nazir. I told y'all, we told you he was here. Okay.
Where are we? I wanted to chime in on the last I just say hi. That the one about what do you say to a wife that demands her husband to come home after work? Here's the interesting thing. We talk very and train on minding your marriage, because all marriages aren't the same. If that is something that is a problem, and usually when it says that she demands these certain things, that's the kind. I actually have triggers. And when a wife demands something of a husband, and this is my specific thing, and I would just put that out there, that when a wife demands something of a husband, I look at it as that. I look at it as emasculating. I look at it as that the leader is no longer the leader. The person who's supposed to be the protector, the provider, that's created as a protector and provider. Hence, most of the time their stature is larger. They can handle a lot of things. The testosterone is there. All these different things that they are created for, as far as that, is taken away. It's taken away. So my view on that, because it's not what I say to a wife that does that, because if that's how he operates in his marriage and that's okay with him and that's okay with her, then, and they're good with that, whatever good for your marriage is good for your marriage. And I'm not stating the abuse and things like that, because when it comes to abuse, that's not, this is good for both people. Someone is getting harmed. Someone is getting hurt. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that this is your agreement, because you have marriages where they have the Mr. Moms and the switch roles and different things like that. Is that something that I would agree with? That's my opinion. I would not rather that be. We don't raise our sons to be of that. But if this is what your marriage is, and that's what you're okay with, then that's what you're okay with. And so be it. Your marriage is not harming anybody else. And it's not harming you guys if that's what it is. However, if it's a problem, then that should be discussed. If it's an issue, then that should be discussed, and how it should move forward should be discussed. And it should be some clear boundaries, like my co-wife said earlier. It should be some clarity. And when it's there, it's like, this is what it's going to be. This is a clarity. If it's not going to be like this, then this is what's going to happen. So it has to have some clarity of what it should be, and the consequences or rewards for how it would operate if it doesn't operate that way, or if it does operate in a way that you agreed on or that you wanted to operate in. As I stated before, I look at men being leaders. They're created to be protectors and providers and do such. So the demanding of anything that a wife demands is one thing to suggest, is one thing to influence. And we dig deep in that about the ego and the femininity in our polygamy masterclass that we will be going live on next Sunday. So if you haven't registered, definitely register. And we go in deeper on that there, because it is a big deal when the roles are switched, and what that looks like for family dynamics, and what that looks like for the legacy building aspect of your marriage and of your family. When those roles are reversed, and when the confusion comes in who is supposed to do what. And I'm not saying that the cleaning of the house and everything like that. It's the demanding of what a specific person is supposed to do.
That's the issue. Yeah.
That's where that lies.
You're not here to raise your husband. And I'll said it multitude of times, and I'll say it again. You're not here to raise your husband. He's grown. So we have to watch our tone.
Yes.
Right.
All right. Last one, and we're out, guys.
We're out, y'all.
And we totally enjoyed our time with you. Make sure, if you haven't already, because we've been talking about it through this webinar, go to polygamyroadmap.com and get your polygamy roadmap. There's some great information in the polygamy roadmap to help you navigate for polygamy success. Yeah. So polygamy, polygyny, all that great stuff, success. And you will find that whether you're in polygamy or monogamy, this ebook will help you. It's beneficial regardless of polygamy or not. And we do believe that even if you're not in polygamy, that's still something that should be discussed, because it is another form of marriage, and it is an option.
Right.
It is an option. And that's the thing, even when it comes to, and we go in that, and that as well in the polygamy roadmap ebook, when it comes to speaking about that to children as well. Because if you're going to talk about marriage, then speak about marriage. And polygamy is a form of marriage. So yeah, I think I forgot what else I was going to say. So
okay, assalamu alaikum, or say sister assalamu alaikum. Assalamu. I'm actually married to a husband as a second wife. I want to know, how can you deal with a co-wife who is always trying to make the husband feel guilty because he married a second time? My first thing to ask you is, how would you know that? How do you know that? Because if he's saying that to you, then you have to be very careful, and so does he, about those types of things. Because are we a fly on the wall? How do we know that conversation happened? How do we know that's happening? Did his other wife say that? Is that something that you've heard? Because I would need a little bit more than simply just that. I mean, it's a thing. It does happen. We're not going to act like it doesn't happen. However, it's interesting to know, because we know, and we've trained on this before, about men passing, the husbands passing information back and forth between wives. That's a no. Because it will create a hostile environment, whether that's his intentions or not. It can build and get to that point, because you shouldn't know anything about her, especially, like any assumptions or anything like that. We shouldn't make those assumptions. And then it's, where did that information come from? How do you know that to be the truth? Because if he's saying something to you about her, he should not be doing that. The men set the tone. They're the ones that are practicing polygyny. That's it. So, and then wives have to be careful too. And then I'm not saying this is you, sister, but I'm saying that you have to be careful about slapping labels on each other and accusations on one another, things of that nature, because sometimes it might seem a certain way to us, and it's not. And then sometimes it's absolutely what it is, because we're experiencing it and we have firsthand knowledge of it, and it's not a third party thing, because I've seen sisters be with each other and go, well, I know how to push his buttons, telling the other wife that, and she can go, look, I didn't get this from a third party. This is not hearsay. I heard it from my own ears. She said this. Wow. But to assume that maybe something's going on with that, or if he said that to you, you have to be very careful about these things. Very careful about these things. I think I did a video, and this is a while back, and we both actually talked about this and trained on this specifically, that what if the reason some wives don't like each other is because of the husband, because he's sharing information and going back and forth and spreading accusations and gossiping between the wives. You cannot have positive polygyny or a successful polygynous journey if that is happening. We're telling you that right now. So I would need a little bit more than that, actually. If that's happening, it shouldn't be happening. And if she said something, you should not have knowledge of it. You know, and he should really correct it if she's saying some things about you that she shouldn't be saying, or you're saying stuff about her that you shouldn't be saying. He should be correcting that. And if he can't do it, you should take that upon yourself to do. Sometimes men get kind of caught up in it, and we have to go, no, don't do that. Don't say that. Time to go. That, you know, that these gentle reminders. I don't want to hear about that. You know, you shouldn't be saying that to me. Are you saying that to her? You know, the different things like that, because it can really make a situation really difficult. I'm telling you. Yeah.
And I think one of the things too is minding your marriage. That's going to be a thing. Mind your marriage. But I know that sounds so blanket, but it's so true.
It's real.
It's so true.
Yeah.
It's one of the easiest things for me to say is mind your marriage.
Yep.
And it's easy to do because it can be done.
That's right.
And the minding your marriage is you focusing on what it takes to make your marriage great. Yeah. Just like my co-wife said, if it's something that's going back and forth, that you are privy to this information, then minding your marriage states that, you know what, I'm trying to do what I need to do for our marriage. I can only work on our stuff. So please, you know, let's not bring that in, you know, into our marriage. But there could be times where you may be observant of the certain things, or you may have heard certain things. Yeah. It's understandable. But when it comes down to it, you can't make anybody else do anything. You can only make you do what you should do.
That's it.
So focusing on that marriage, focusing on your marriage, not that, your marriage, and what you can do to improve your marriage. There are going to be times where whatever, just like in monogamy, if a husband had a rough day at work, there may be some energy that may come home with him. It may.
I'm just saying.
But what is your role as a wife? What are you doing to make sure that your home is peaceful? What are you doing to make sure your marriage is moving forward? You know, it can be, you know, even if it's something that he may, that can be that problem, it's more of a, what are we going to do together to build? What are we going, maybe we can watch something together. Maybe I will make his favorite food. Maybe I do this thing to keep his mind off of the stresses that can come from somewhere else. Because you can only focus on your marriage.
That's it.
Your marriage. So you can't do anything for her or about her doing whatever she do, because she's going to be her and she's going to do what she do.
That's it.
You can't control him and tell him what to do, but you can be a person of influence. And we discuss how to do that, and we train on how to do that in our women's polygamy masterclass, and we also do that in our coaching. So because it's way more than we have time for here. So
we're gonna wrap it up, guys, because it's that time.
But yes, definitely mind your marriage. And you want more information, you want guidance and training on how to do that, how to mind your marriage in a productive manner, how to be able to grow and build and have fulfillment in your marriage. Definitely register for our Women's Polygamy Masterclass. And you will get that at polygamymasterclass.com. For the men, our husband is conducting a men's polygamy masterclass. Once again, you can go to polygamymasterclass.com and you can register for that for the men. And if you haven't already, make sure you download that polygamy roadmap ebook at polygamyroadmap.com.
Yes. And we hope to see you all there. We're going to wrap it up. Thank you all so much for joining us for this special webinar.
Yes.
My awesome co-wife coach, Nyla. And check us out. Make sure you join our community, of course.
Yes, oprcommunity.com.
And for more details, because you guys might ask. So make sure you get on over there And again, it's a safe space. And we hope to see you guys inside there too. So yes, that's the end of this.
So guys, have a wonderful day, evening, all that other good stuff wherever you are watching us from. And make sure you are growing intentionally,
Loving fearlessly,
and connecting on a higher level every single day. And we look forward to seeing you in the Polygamy Masterclass or in the community at oprcommunity.com. All right, assalamu alaikum. Peace.
Yes. Okay, and all right, and yeah.